Hey everyone, in one of my other videos I touched on mental illness and compulsion to try to explain it to people. First of all, let me say my throat's sore, so I'm sounding worse and worse, and I'm probably going to, take sips of a drink that I have. Also, I'm waiting on a package, and I might have to stop and then start back up. I don't have any type of fancy editing stuff. I don't even know how to do that crap, so just bear with me. Anyway, I think this is important for people to know. I don't know how good I'm going to be able to explain it. And as I said before in my previous video, no matter what level of education you have in mental health, no matter what type of experience you have as a police officer, detective, nurse, tech, psychologist, psychiatrist, you cannot understand mental illness completely unless you have it. Let me emphasize this, and I've got to emphasize it because people don't get it. I don't care if you have the highest Johns Hopkins degree in psychology, doctorates, you're the top of your class, you've got genius brain. If you don't have a mental illness yourself, no matter how many people you study and no matter how much you've learned in that textbook, you cannot understand mental illness fully. You might know the medicines to give people, and you know you have a general understanding of what you're seeing people go through, especially after years of experience, but you still don't know. You just can't. It's impossible. It's impossible to understand unless you can feel it yourself. And that's why I want to try to explain it. And I don't know if I really can, but you've got to try to understand what people go through with mental illness. And I'm going to talk about bipolar and OCD. And let me preface by saying I have been in the psych field for many, many, many years. I've worked with children, teens, adults. I've worked at a standalone facility, hospital, and state facility. So I have had every type of experience. I've worked with NGRIs, not guilty by reason of insanity people. So I have a plethora of experience, and I'm bipolar. So I can speak on this with super knowledge. I'm not one of these so-called police detectives that think they know something. I'm not a doctor that only has textbook experience. I am a well-rounded person in the field with bipolar. And if you have bipolar, there's some crossover with OCD, and the obsession and compulsion component is a crossover with bipolar and OCD. So that's what I'm going to talk about. First, let me tell you about bipolar a little bit. There is bipolar 1 and there is bipolar 2. It used to be called manic depression. When getting diagnosed, people can have bipolar traits, but not have a diagnosis of bipolar, but you're still going through certain things. You have to have a certain amount of the traits, like 5 traits out of a list. And like I said, there's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is the more severe. That would be someone like Mariah Carey and Kanye. Kanye is the perfect example of bipolar 1. You get manic. And that is when you've got all this energy. People can have it to where they can't sleep, talk fast, will be sexually promiscuous, will do drugs, will drink. You can be psychotic, just like a person that has psychotic disorder. And you could just be out of your mind. See, some people that are so severe, they can have visual, auditory hallucinations like somebody with schizophrenia. And some people that are really bad bipolars, they might get the wrong diagnosis of being psychotic or schizophrenic, because a lot of psych disorders overlap with the symptoms. So that's why you have to have a very good psychiatrist. Bipolar 1 people are the people that you see in the hospital. You normally don't see a lot of bipolar 2 people. It's usually bipolar 1, because they can just get so bad off and they need to be hospitalized. They could be suicidal. And it just takes a toll on your health in general. You know, that's why we say Kanye is such a good example, because, excuse me, he definitely wasn't taking his medicine, and he probably wasn't even on the right medicine. You've got to try various medicines until you find the right combination. And, you know, it gets so bad. That's why he says the things that he says. He is bipolar. He can't control his actions because he's not on his medicine, and he just gets, you know, manic, and he has those psychotic traits. You will say stuff that's gonna screw you over. Look how much money he's lost because of it. And it's really sad that he just won't take his medications, but that's bipolar 1. And it really is really rough on a person. Bipolar 2, what I have, it's a much milder form of bipolar 1. Instead of being manic, you're hypomanic. So you necessarily don't talk super fast. You're not going to get that full-blown mania to where you're psychotic and have to be hospitalized. You can still feel suicidal. You can still be hypersexual. You can still be sexually promiscuous. You can still do drugs. You can still do alcohol. But you're better in control, especially if you're on medication. So that's bipolar 2. It's just a milder form of bipolar 1, 2, where you're probably not going to be hospitalized. You can, you know, lead a more, productive life without it just constantly affecting you. But it's still serious, especially if you don't take medicine. So that's basically the difference. You're not having psychotic episodes, and, and you're not bad to the point you've got to be hospitalized. Now, you still can be, like I said, the hypersexual, doing promiscuous stuff and everything. But like I said, it's milder. And like with OCD, people are compelled and then they're obsessed. And you can be that with bipolar as well. And it's a bad thing to have. I had a coworker, was a freaking awesome nurse, but she had OCD. And it manifests itself so differently between people. The spectrum of it is just amazing. You can have people where it just totally, completely affects their lives so bad because they get these obsessions and compulsions, like the one that people typically hear of. You might be washing your hands several times till they're raw. You're in such a distress that your hands are not clean, that you've got to keep washing it till the distress goes away. Another common one, like my nurse friend had, going out and shutting the door. The distress is you don't know if you locked it. You know you locked it, but you've got to check that door over and over again until that distress about it goes away and you know you locked it. You rationally know you locked it, but you are compelled. You have that compulsion to do the door, and it's strong, super, super strong. I have some OCD, and I definitely have obsession, and a lot of people with bipolar have that OCD, obsession and compulsion, but might not be diagnosed as OCD because you don't have all the traits to be diagnosed as OCD. As I said, so many mental illnesses overlap, but that's one that bipolar and OCD people share, and I can speak on the obsession and compulsion because I have that. And it sucks and it ruins people. And that's why a lot of people with bipolar will lose their home. Their bank accounts will be drained because you get obsessed about something and you know you shouldn't be doing it, but the compulsion is too strong and you cannot help it. No matter how much you know you shouldn't do it, you're going to do it. Let me give you an example. And you see a lot of people that are hospitalized with bipolar, and they talk about their obsessions and their compulsions. Excuse me, I've got to take a sip. And this has been horrible for me, and I can't change it. I will see something, and especially if I'm in a hypomanic state, I will want that item. Or if there's something I want to learn, I'll get really into it. And I will study that item or whatever I'm interested in until I am freaking knowledgeable like a professional. Say there's like a medical procedure or a diagnosis that I just get focused on. I will go to every source I can until I'm an expert like a doctor on it. That's why you get a lot of psych patients that know more than the doctors do, because you get focused on it and you will learn everything there is to know. Say there's an item that I want, and I just get focused on that item. I will go to every website there is that has that item and look it up constantly to find the best price. And if I really want it, I will buy several of them. And like on eBay or something like that, especially if I can get it like super cheap and I'm really, really into it. Let's take body products. I've been obsessed with like a certain scent, and I just really want that product. I will look on eBay, and if I can find a bunch of them super cheap, I will buy them all. Now, I know rationally, because I'm broke. Well, this was more when I was working, I was making good money, I could afford it. I know rationally I shouldn't do it because I don't need 20 of this item, but I want it. I'm focused on it, and I've got to have it. I'm compelled to have it. I'm compelled to keep looking up this item. I have got to do it. And like I said, some people don't realize it and really don't know rationally they shouldn't do it. That's more like bipolar 1s. But bipolar 2s, you know you shouldn't be doing it, but you've got that compulsion. That's why, thank God, I don't have any type of bad compulsion, even though spending is a bad thing. And I'll give you a good example of one of my terrible compulsions. I'm into home fragrance. I'm into candles. And not only just do I like having that smell because I'm into home fragrance, but when I see a new scent or something that I'm focused on, I have got to have it. I know I can't afford it. I know I should not be buying it, but I am compelled to buy it. I probably have about 400 candles, and that's not good. I should not have 400 candles, but I get obsessed and I'm compelled to buy it. If I don't buy it, I'm distressed because I have to have it. And that's what it's like for an OCD person. You're distressed and you're focused on something and you're compelled. And if you don't have what you're compelled, or you don't do what you're compelled to do, you stay in a constant state of distress until you have it. And then, like on the bipolar side, once you have all this stuff, you're happy at the moment because you're satisfied. You filled your compulsion. But then the depression comes in because you look at your bill and you've blown money you don't have to blow. It's a vicious, vicious cycle. It's terrible, but you cannot help it. And that's why I said, I don't care if you're a genius, and I don't care if your doctor degree is the highest and you've had 1 billion years of experience. You don't understand what it feels like. You cannot understand it unless you go through it, because it is strong. It is a strong feeling. It's distressful. You're compelled. Even if you know it's wrong, you do it. You cannot help it. Now, maybe if you are really on some good medications, you might be able to control it better. But it's terrible. And it's even more for people with OCD. I mean, some people with OCD can be completely debilitated. I've seen people that they're so obsessed and compulsed, that's all they do, trying to get that distress out of their life all day. You know, those people you hear that are cleaning everything all day. Their hands are so raw from cleaning. They're buying so much cleaning products. They're shutting the door 100 times. It's debilitating. They can't even go to the store because they're doing a 3-hour process to satisfy their OCD. It's distressful. So I just kind of wanted to say that because they said Bryan had OCD. We don't know how bad his OCD is. They said he was up at night doing stuff and cleaning and all that. People automatically assumed he was trying to get rid of evidence, but it could just be his OCD. You know, we don't know. People make assumptions a lot because they're passionate and they're upset about something that's going on. So they say, oh, he's hiding evidence, he's doing this and that. He could have been. He probably was, but we don't know. It could have just been his OCD. Oh, he wore gloves and all this. People, we have COVID. I wear gloves. I wear a mask. I've caught COVID twice at doctor's appointments. I have severe health problems. I can't afford to keep catching COVID. So I have sanitizer hooked up to my purse from my Bath and Body sanitizer holders. I've got gloves. I got mask. Still wear it. So you can't assume that you know what people are doing and why they're doing it. You people make too many freaking assumptions. And it's natural because we have this case that we're so invested in that is just so horrific, and we want the person or people brought to justice. But you cannot understand what a person is going through when they have a mental health issue. And that's what I was saying when Bryan was talking about his issues when he was a teenager. He was so insightful, it blew my mind. Most people with mental health disorders are not insightful. That's why so many are in the hospital. They have no insight. He described things at his age that I haven't heard adults describe. He was super, super insightful. I wish he could have gotten the good mental health care that he needed then and was really on medications that was going to help him, because mental illness really starts in the late teens and early 20s. That's a fact. That's what you're taught. We know. Of course, you can have mental health illnesses as a child, 100%. But a lot of people that go on to have severe mental illness, they usually start in their late teens, 20s. And it's bad because so many people don't get the mental health help they need. I just did a video on that. Please watch it. I give you a raw, honest overview of our horrible mental health system, of how people are treated and how you cannot get the mental health services you need. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for your medicine to even start working in your system. And that's if you're even on the right medication. Some people might have to change their meds every year. Some people might have to change their meds several times a year because the medicines will stop working or they have not received the right combination in the first place. As I said in my first video, so many doctors don't give a crap about their patients. They're just getting people in and out to get that money. And they don't care about the patients. Of course, you have lots of them that do. You have really good doctors, but a lot of them don't care. So a lot of people are not on their right medicine combinations to be effective. But I just wanted to emphasize that because that's the overlap between a lot of people with bipolar and OCD. This obsession and compulsion is horrible. It is absolutely horrible to go through. And like, especially if you're hypomanic at the time, for a bipolar person, you're in that zone, you're happy, and you're just excited, I can conquer the world. So you're obsessing over this thing that you're really into, you're learning about it, you feel smart, you're all happy. You know, if it's something you want to buy, you found so many of them, you're excited to get them. Then you get them all. You're getting out of that hypomanic stage, you're getting into the more depressive stage, and here you've got a box of 100 items you realize you don't need now. And you probably realized you didn't need it at the time when you were getting them. But that compulsion drives you, and it doesn't matter how much you know you should not do it. You've got to do it to relieve that anxiety that's in you, that's telling you you've got to do it. So that's why I'm saying I'm so thankful I don't have a compulsion for something bad. And I think even if I did, I wouldn't do it. But you can't help it. You cannot help it. And people can't understand that. Oh, just take more medicine, take more medicine. Medicine's not going to help unless you really have a good doctor that has you on that right medicine combination and that you're in therapy and you're being active. You've got to do so much stuff. It's a chemical imbalance. Mental illness is a chemical imbalance. There's no excuse for people to do bad, but I'm just telling you, I'm trying to explain to you, when you're obsessed and compulsed, you can't help it. And it's so much worse for a person with true OCD. As I said, you're in distress. You're in constant distress, and you can't get out of it until you've done your ritual enough that you just finally break it. And like I said, you might wash your hands 100 times. You might check that door 300 times. And it's just know a certain amount of time. You just keep doing it until your mind clicks and said, okay, you've done it enough. We know that door is shut. We know your hands are clean. And then you move on. Some people might be obsessed and compulsed with several things. They might have to clean the house 4 times a day. They might have to wash their hands 100 times. They might have to check the door several times. You know, it just depends on what your obsession and compulsion is. You know, you might have to be like me. You might have to look at every lotion that you're obsessed with at the time on eBay for days. And that's the thing. Another thing with me, I've had several obsessions. I will get onto something and I will be dedicated. Oh, God, I want to learn to do this. I will do it. I'll take show you another example. I'm in severe health. I have severe health issues. I can't do anything at the time. I saw a hobby that I wanted to do. It's called diamond art painting, and you buy these kits, and You make all these fabulous things. It keeps you busy. I still want to do it. But I was obsessed with it at the time because I saw it. I said, okay, this can keep me occupied, keep my mind off of my health and everything. So I went on YouTube. I watched hundreds of videos about diamond art painting until I became an expert. I looked at so many websites constantly, hours a day, several hours a day, 10 hours a day, for weeks and weeks. I bought probably 50 diamond art painting sets so I could do them. Didn't need it. Compelled to do it. I knew I didn't need that many kits. I was compelled to buy it. I was in distress. I had to buy it, so I bought them. I felt good at the time. My distress was relieved. But then I was depressed that I bought so many kits, but I had to buy it. I had to buy it to relieve that distress. And then after maybe 2 months, no longer desired to do it, haven't even touched them. I think I did 2 little quick kits and haven't done any of the other ones. Then something else will come up that I get obsessed about. I will research it. If it's a disease, I'll know it just as good as a doctor. If it's an item, I will know everything about it. Buy them all up. Distress is relieved, and then I'm depressed that I bought it all up. And I was a nurse. When I was a nurse, I was making good money. So I didn't see the impact at the time. But now that I get no money, I'm just getting a teeny bit of money to get by, it is hard for me. And I know I can't buy the things that I'm compelled to buy. Sometimes I might buy 1 or 2, but I'm still distressed that I can't buy more because I'm obsessed with it. And it's bad. You know, I'll go through maybe 50 obsessions in a year. I just get focused on one thing, and then I go to another, and I go to another. You know, and I've been told this, you know, you jump from one thing to another. I can't help it. I cannot help it. I get obsessed, compulsed. I might be into it for a week. Then I'm not interested anymore. Then I'll go to the next thing. I might be into that for a month. Not interested anymore. Go to the next thing. And it's a vicious cycle. You can't control it. You cannot control it. So I just wanted to try to explain it more so you can understand. You can't make assumptions about people. Bryan was probably trying to destroy evidence. Some of the things the officers said they saw looks like he was trying to clean up and destroy evidence. But his neighbors even said, you know, before this, he was up and about at 2, 3 in the morning. That was probably just his OCD. So you can't assume anything. In this day of COVID, he could have just been wearing the gloves like a lot of other people do, not trying to catch COVID. We don't know that. Like I said, I wear the mask, the gloves, I have the sanitizer. You know, you can't assume. If he has the OCD like they said, he's going through that obsession and compulsion. You can't control it. He's probably not on medications. I don't think he's on medications now. You can't control it. No excuse. If he was obsessed and compulsed to kill people, no excuse that he did it because it's vicious and horrible. You can't control your obsessions and compulsions. And that's why I just wanted to try to explain it, because you can never understand it unless you go through it. And I want to emphasize this. I got to emphasize this. Because people, I'm such an expert. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I've been a doctor for 30 years. Look at all the plaques on my walls. I've treated so many people. I've studied it. Textbook. I hate that. Everyone goes by textbook. Textbook doesn't mean shit. I've got health problems that textbook doesn't explain. I'm not the stereotypical person for certain illnesses. And I hate when people go by textbook. You've got to go by your experience. But when with mental health illness is involved, you can't go by textbook. I don't care if you're 80 years old and you've been a doctor for 50 years. You can't, and I'm going to emphasize can't. If you don't have psych issues, you cannot understand the feeling that people get that have psych issues. You'll never be able to understand it, no matter how many people you've talked to, no matter what you've read in your textbook. You've got to feel it to understand it. So that's what I wanted to emphasize. I just really want to emphasize that compulsion that you get. It's distress. You go through the ritual of the compulsion until you don't have that distress anymore. You're on top of the world at the moment. If you're like bipolar and you're hypomanic and you've got all that energy going, and yes, I know this now, and yes, I got 50 of these. When you come back to reality and you look at that bill, that depression kicks your butt. And if you're just got OCD, okay, let me go take it back. If you're bipolar, you usually do this when you're hypomanic or manic. So you're in a really good mood. I want to differentiate this. If you're bipolar, you're in a hypomanic or you're in a manic mood. Okay, when you're in that mood, you are feeling good. You are on top of the world. You will start taking dance classes. You're going to change your career, all this. You're in a good mood. And that's why a lot of people don't like to take their medicine, because when you're hypomanic or manic, you are in a really good mood. Okay, so if you have the obsession and compulsion at that time, it's a good feeling. Because if you're learning something, you're learning it good. If you're buying something, you're buying all you want. Okay, so you're fulfilling the need of your obsession and compulsion. So a bipolar person is in a good mood when they're doing it. Okay, then later when they come down from their mania or hypermania, then they become depressed that they did it. Okay, someone with OCD, they're in a distressed mood. They're not in that good mood that the bipolar person is in. They are distressed from their compulsion. So they have to do their rituals and shut the door and wash their hands to get rid of the distress that they're in. And then once they've done it enough time, then they're okay. So let me say that one more time. Bipolar person is in a good mood. They're hypomanic, they're manic. They've got that obsession and compulsion, and they're just doing it because they're on top of the world. Then once they come down, then they're depressed that they did that. A person with OCD is distressed, and they're doing all the rituals to get out of that distress. So when they've done it enough, now they're in a good mood. So it's totally opposite of with the bipolar person. You're doing it for the totally opposite reason. So bipolar, you're in a good mood, then you become depressed. OCD, you're distressed, but then you're in a good mood afterwards because you've done the ritual enough to get out of that distress. So I hope that gives people a little bit more understanding of bipolar and OCD and what people go through. Having mental illness is not fun. It's not a good thing. It ruins your life. A lot of people that don't have the money to get help, those are the ones you see on Skid Row. And they become homeless. You lose your job, relationships. And a lot of people don't have insight. They deny that they've got a mental illness. The stigma is still bad. You're embarrassed. Just like for me, I never shared with anyone that I had bipolar, because I would hear the nurses and doctors just talking just horrible, vicious things about the patients. I wasn't about to say I'm bipolar. I didn't even get help for my bipolar until I was an adult because the stigma was just terrible. You know, I think that's what made me a good nurse, because I was bipolar. I knew what people were going through. I had the empathy. I had the concern, the caring for them. You know, I wasn't one of these people that had no clue about what they were going through, even though, you know, you have education. If you don't go through something, you can't understand it. You never will. You never will be able to understand it completely. You can't. It's a chemical imbalance. You were born with it. You can't help it. So, you know, don't jump to any conclusions about anyone. Like I said, you know, I don't think Bryan had any, wasn't on any medication. And if he did these things, if he's guilty, did these things out of obsession and compulsion, then that's really bad. He really needs to get some mental health help, and he needs to get on some medications. There's never no excuse for doing something like that. But I just wanted to explain it more so you can understand it. So thank you for listening to this video. And please hit that like button and that subscribe button. And I hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are.